Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. This is episode 101. I'm Steve. This time we are joined by very special guests. We're very happy to have Mr. Pimax, Mr. Sebastian from Mixed Reality TV. Sebastian, how is it going over there in Germany? You're in Germany, right?
I'm in Germany, yeah. So first of all, thanks so much for having me. It's a great pleasure and a great honor to be here because I really enjoy your show so much. In my opinion, this is actually one of the best VR shows on the interwebs. So thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
We appreciate the endorsement there. Gary, how are you doing, bud?
Yeah, pretty good. This past week, I've been busy this past couple of weeks with work and stuff like that, so I've not done too much VR, but I did get a chance to go to a VR tech startup here in Leicester on Thursday last week, Subconscious VR, which are working on sort of 360 videos with interactive elements and stuff like that in there. And I spoke to a few VR enthusiasts there in person, actually, for the first time in a long while, so it was pretty interesting. And yeah, I hope to do that kind of stuff again. But yeah, it was really, really good stuff. And hopefully maybe I'll report on that a little bit more at some point in the future.
Awesome. And Mr. Anthony, how are you?
It's going good. Same old, pretty much. Nothing new.
Okay. First thing, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We had our episode 100 last week. It was very good for us. We enjoyed being able to celebrate doing this show for a little over 2 years. With that, we held the giveaway. So Gary has been so kind to handle most of this giveaway organizing. He, along with Fluke Raji. So I'm going to turn it over to Gary so he can announce the winners.
Yeah, so again, thank you to Fluke Raji for providing a lot of the stuff that we're giving away on that episode. And so the winners were, so we had a few things that we were going to do. We're going to do a giveaway on the live stream based on chat and also a comment on our live stream video and also on the audio podcast as well. So there's 3 winners in total. The first one, and I've not contacted these yet. I did mean to contact them yesterday, actually, before the show, but so this might be a surprise for everyone. So the YouTube show, the comment in chat winner is Phil Yarn. Long time viewer, I think. We see him often in there. And the comment in the video for the last episode of the live stream is Ryan Hawley. So if you guys can contact us, email us vrroundtable@gmail.com and claim your gifts, and we'll sort everything out there. The audio podcast listener who won the giveaway is Jeff Moreau. And I'll probably email you, Jeff, just to sort that out with you. But hopefully you're still listening to this episode. So just to reiterate, that each winner of this giveaway will get a hardback copy of Dawn of the New Everything, A Journey Through Virtual Reality by Jaron Lanier, and Ready Player One Funko Pop, either Iron Giant, Sorrento, or Daito, and also a 3D printed lens cover for the Oculus Go. They are all courtesy of Fluke Raji, so give him a little bit of kudos in the chat for that. And also we'll be adding in there a $25 or £25 gift card for Steam or PSN. We might just PayPal you over $25 or £25 and you can sort it out yourselves. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, really. Thank you to everyone that entered into this. Yeah, we'll sort out the winners during the next few days, hopefully.
Yep, good stuff. Congrats to everybody that won. Getting into it, this episode is going to be mostly on hardware, because that's just where the news was this week. And it was also a perfect time to bring Sebastion in, because if you follow the VR community, if you follow VR news, you probably have a good guess what we're going to ask him a lot of questions about. And
probably you're going to ask some questions about this device here, right?
Absolutely. So, but before we get Pimax, sort of one of the key things that jumped out at the beginning of the week was some Oculus drama. Brendan Iribe, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. I wasn't a VR fan back during the DK1 and in the pre-order days. I came to VR a couple months late, so I don't really follow who is the leaders of the company and everything so closely. But Brendan Iribe, one of the co-founders, is out, and the sort of what was reported via TechCrunch was over disagreements or the cancellation of what would have been the Oculus Rift 2. there's a lot of noise around it, and a lot of people are taking that news as relatively negative, and for good reason. But before I give my thoughts on it, Anthony, I'll send it to you. What is your take on the Oculus drama?
Yeah, well, my take on it is I believe there's something here. I do believe there's something here. And so the very first when we first heard this news, I kind of went off on a couple of different rants, and a lot of people was like, "Oh man, Anthony's saying PCVR is dead," because all of this has happened. And it's not exactly that. No, PCVR is not dead. However, see, the thing is, when you have major companies like Facebook, like these really big corporations, decisions are made that there's different products that are in different stages of development, and decisions are made, and sometimes certain projects are just completely scrapped and plugs are pulled on certain projects. And if you have high-ranking executives that were involved in that specific project, and that project means a lot to them, and the company is going in a different direction that you're not necessarily pleased with, this type of situation can happen. Somebody could say, well, you know what? I mean, I understand what you're doing here. I'm going to go ahead and bow out. I'm going to pursue other opportunities because you guys are going in this other direction. And I think that's basically what happened here. Now, some people may overreact a little bit and kind of think the sky is falling. Oh my God, PCVR gaming is dying. And I don't mean to say that. What I do think the casualty that is coming from this is not going to be felt until the year 2020. Okay, so I think the rest of this year, all of 2019, I think it is going to be business as usual. I think it's going to be the same thing that we've always seen. No one's going to notice anything. Everything's going to be, Rift games are still going to come. It's not like they're canceling everything, But when we get to 2020, what I do think is going to happen is your Lone Echo 2s, your disruptors, defectors, your what else? Stormland, like all of these really big AAA games, like the Respawn game that they're working on. I just think that all of that, like that well of money that was used towards that, is going to go in a completely different direction, and we're not going to get those games. So we're not going to get the Robo Recalls, the Mage's Tales, all these exclusives. There's still going to be good games, and they're not giving up on the Rift by any stretch of the imagination. But this is a big blow. I still believe this is a legitimate blow. Yeah.
One of the things that, that I said, and I think I typed it in the chat of one of your VR game ranking shows, literally as you were saying it on camera, but where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm not sure that everything that TechCrunch was presenting was 100% true. Oculus, of course, has come out since then, or Facebook has come out since then and has said that, no, Rift 2 is still a thing. There will be future investments that we make. There will be future hardware that we have on the PC platform. But I still believe that there's something there. So we don't know what the Rift 2 looked like. We don't know what it consisted of. We don't know exactly what Iribe's team was working on. We just don't know. So I think it's possible that Oculus / Facebook and TechCrunch are both correct in that something was canceled. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that there will never be Rift or PC tethered hardware from Oculus again. Gary, what have you say about any of this? Anything you want to chime in? Anything we haven't covered?
Yeah, I don't think it has been cancelled. Now, I think, honestly, looking at this TechCrunch article, I see it seems almost like it's semantics in what they were saying with this. Now, the original article seemed pretty confident in terms of saying that the Rift 2 had been cancelled, and yet the update says, so let me just read something from the update. It says, while Facebook did not deny our report that Rift 2 being developed under Iribe's PCVR team had been cancelled, the company reiterated to us in a comment that they are continuing to invest in PC. Now, what I'm saying is that seems like a semantic kind of argument that they're presenting there, because the Rift 2 is not being developed under Iribe. Of course it's not, because he's now left the company. Now, I'm under the impression that it doesn't make sense for them to completely cancel or completely move away from PCVR. And part of it is actually to do with what happened at OC5. I actually rewatched the OC5, the opening to the keynote on day one of OC5 yesterday, just to really see what Zuckerberg was saying. And he said, and actually I think this was on the Upload article as well, where they posted a video about it. But there was something about where he was talking about how the next generation of the Rift needs to support all of the software from the first one. And he said the new version of the Rift, which we're not announcing today, and, you know, he gave a little bit of a chuckle with that, as if it was obvious. And I think it was obvious. They weren't going to announce the Rift 2 that day. But the new version of the Rift, he specifically mentioned it. Why would he have mentioned anything to do with the Rift 2 if there was any hesitation in them going forward with that? This is not a decision that could have been made overnight. You know, this must have been a decision months in the making if they did cancel the Rift 2. And I don't understand why he would have even mentioned anything to do with that at all if they didn't have plans to continue with PCVR. So I'm of the opinion, actually, where I think that they are working on PCVR continually, you know, going forward with this. Whether it's called the Rift 2 or not is semantics. It doesn't really matter. But I do believe that they are. The final thing I'll say is, when you look at it from the other side, why would they deny this? When you look at the Rift, I think they are losing money on pretty much every Rift that is being sold. They are subsidizing the hardware. They are subsidizing developers for the Rift as well. They are losing money every day on the Rift. What is their motivation, really, to lie about the fact that they are continuing to work on PCVR? I think there's no motivation, honestly. They could just say, they could just put a line under it and just say, our future is standalone. And also, you know, Anthony, I know you want to say more about this, but the other thing, just to quickly mention, is Iribe's left this company, which it might be. I don't disagree with you, Anthony, in terms that the focus of Facebook and Oculus is now on standalone. I think that's a given. It is on standalone. What I'm saying is that the Rift 2, see, they're calling it the Rift 2 and saying the Rift 2 has been cancelled. I don't believe the Rift 2 has been cancelled. Whatever the next product, PC-based product is, that will still be coming out. But Iribe might have had a problem with the fact that the focus is now on standalone.
Well, you know, when I said where there's smoke, there's fire, you know, I think what could have been, it's really what form is the new product or the Rift successor taking? Is it going to be a cost competitive, you know, relatively mild increase of technology in the hardware? Or are they going to go sort of in the Pimax direction and do something radical like the Half Dome prototype that we saw? And what may have in theory been canceled could have been just the direction of the headset. You know, we could have a Rift 2, whatever it's called, that, you know, just had a little more FOV, had a little more resolution, more of a Rift 1.5, and that could be what was quote unquote canceled. And instead more of the Half Dome type, or the other way around. So, Anthony, I know you want to get in, but I want to send it to Sebastian. My question to you, Sebastian, is if the Rift 2 is canceled, or if the focus, and I should rephrase this as basically saying the timing of this is what made it so bad, just shortly after OC5, where the Quest was announced. So if the focus from Facebook is on standalone hardware, but if they continue to support PCVR hardware, what does that mean for the industry? Is there room? Does Facebook even need to go high end on PCVR, or can they still be sort of lowish in and not try to compete with the Vive Pro, the Samsung Odyssey, or, you know, the Pimax?
Well, I think that it's over for PCVR for Oculus. I think it's going into the standalone direction completely. The thing is that Facebook, they want to reach the mainstream, right? They want to get 1 billion people into VR. and they're not going to reach that with a Rift 2 that needs another GTX 2080 or some cutting edge machine to just have the perfect Lone Echo 2 or 3 running. And you know what you said before about Lone Echo 2, Anthony, not arriving on the Rift, I agree. You know what? I think it's going to arrive on Quest. It's going to arrive on Quest 2, on the next iterations of these standalone headsets. So I think it does not make sense for Facebook to invest too much money into this cutting edge technologies that are only going to be picked up by us, by the people who are watching this show right now, by the VR enthusiasts who are going to pick up a Pimax, for example. I think that time is over with Facebook having taken over Oculus. So I think it makes lots of sense that Iribe, I don't also know how to say that name. I mean, it makes sense that he's leaving the company. So just like Palmer Luckey, these were these super VR enthusiasts. They just wanted to make the cutting edge technology. So Iribe, he has been working on that Half Dome prototype. He wanted to bring out the very, very best headset that is possible to make, right? That is what was on his mind. That's the same that was on Palmer Luckey's mind when they came up with the first prototypes of the Rift. That is their goal, right? This is what they want to do. They want to push VR. They want to push the medium. So, and this is in stark contrast with what Facebook wants to do. Could you imagine any company that is more mainstream than Facebook? Probably no, right? I mean, my mom is using Facebook, and the only company that's probably more mainstream than Facebook is Apple. So they want to bring in the masses, and Zuckerberg has said it, right? They want to bring 1 billion people into VR, and they're not going to make this with a Rift 2. Rift 2 would be like fan service for us, for the Rift fans, right? But it's not what they want to achieve as a company, which is to bring it to the masses. So what I see is it's going to be the Quest. They're going to put everything on the Quest. It's an amazing device. It's the first device that is standalone, which has 6 degrees of freedom. We know all this stuff, right? And that can be picked up by my mom. My mom, she doesn't even know what is a GTX 1080 or RDX, right? So she's going to pick up that device. Probably I'm going to give it to her for Christmas. And the thing is, after that, we're simply going to see iterations on the Quest 2. So on the Quest. So probably we're going to see some of that half dome technology be in the Quest 3, for example. So that technology isn't dead, but it's not going to come out as a Rift 2. That's what I'm quite sure of.
Yeah, see, I think I kind of see both sides of the argument, and honestly, I'm mostly undecided. I think Oculus will have another headset that attaches, whether wirelessly or through a cable, to a PC. There is a lot of evidence that Gary pointed to that that kind of, Zuckerberg did utter the words, the next Rift. He's, and he said that we won't be launching that today. He kind of nipped it in the bud right in the very beginning of the show, but he did make acknowledgement to it. And then if we look at them as participants in the Open XR, and they're also a participant in the conglomerate that is focusing on the USB-C connector, the virtual link. So I think there is enough to suggest that they will have something in PCVR, but that doesn't mean, to Sebastian's point, it doesn't mean it's necessarily their focus or where their heart is. There's room for, mainstream companies like Apple, and in the case of Facebook, which we don't have as much data on, to cater both to the wide audience and also to the enthusiasts. Apple has the iPhone, the iPad, all that's mainstream, but they still make the $3,000, high-end PCs that most people don't have. So I think there's room to do both. But I am leaning more to the side that, I think their heart going forward is going to be in standalone because that reaches the mainstream. Anthony, I know you had it's been quite a while since Gary spoke, but let's give you a chance to kind of respond back to something you wanted to jump in when Gary was talking.
Yeah, I just had two counter arguments to two of the things that Gary was talking about. So one of the things that Gary said was like going back and watching Oculus Connect 5 and everything that he was saying, if the Rift 2 was really canceled and if Zuckerberg knew that right then and there before that show started, why would he say all the things that he said? And I understand that. That's a good point. And it's not that much time from Oculus Connect 5 to when this whole thing went down. However, the one thing I'll say is I've been at a number of companies where you show up one random day to work and it's like meeting in the auditorium. It's an all staff meeting. Everybody goes there and boom, a freaking announcement just came out of the blue. They just got some numbers back from something and the whole game has changed overnight. And so let's just pretend for a second that this type of situation happens, that on one specific day, some dramatic situation is going to happen where they decide to pull the plug. This happens in all kinds of companies, right? Well, who's to say that that day didn't fall after Oculus Connect 5 and before all of this happened? Now, I know it's a short window of time. I'm just saying, is it impossible that a major thing happened within this like short window of time? The other thing I'd say too is Gary was saying, he was saying something about why would why would Facebook deny this? You know, if they're backing away from PCVR, why would they really care? Why would they deny it? To me, the answer is simple. You deny it because your most fervent Oculus fan base are the hardcore people that believed in the Kickstarter dream. These are the people like us, the hardcore enthusiasts. We want to see the bleeding edge pushed continually. We want the best. We want big FOV. We want eye tracking. We want foveated rendering. We want all of it, right? And this is your most fervent fan base of all. And the thing is, it's like the old internet argument that like 1% of your fan base is the loudest. And it seems like the entire internet believes a certain thing, but it's really just a really loud segment of your fans. And so one of the things I said on my show is Facebook is never going to Zuckerberg is never going to get up on stage and say, guess what, guys, we're abandoning PCVR and we're abandoning it starting tomorrow. Good luck. You know, I mean, they're never going to say that. In my opinion, what they're going to do, this is what I really think happened here. And this is all pure speculation on my part, but what I think happened is they had a plan for a Rift 2, and it probably had a code name. Let's just say it's code name Xavier for the sake of argument, right? So they had a code name Xavier, and that was their product that they were, and they had a timeline for it and everything. They had a feature set for it. That particular code name, that got canceled, not the Rift 2. The Rift 2 is back to the drawing board to a certain degree. I'm sure. I mean, it's not like they're starting over from scratch. They're going to, whatever they were deciding to do is going to be reconfigured a little bit and they'll rework it. What I'm trying to say though, is whenever the Rift 2 really was coming, it might be an extra year now. You know, there might be another year now. And I also believe that if you're Facebook internally, and you're backing away from PCVR, period. That's just the reality of it. You're backing away from PCVR. If you're going to do that, you're going to do that in the most public relations friendly manner possible. So you're going to do it slowly and subtly so that people like months and months will go by and exactly. You know, a year from now, people won't even remember this. And it'll just be like, yeah, you know, Oculus, wow, we haven't received a Lone Echo 2 type of game or a Defector type game. Remember Oculus Connect 5? Wasn't anybody else kind of surprised we didn't get announcements for more high-end Rift games? I thought it was kind of weird. All we got was Lone Echo 2 confirmed as a full legit game, and that was it. We didn't even get the Respawn trailer.
So
I think for the one more word, probably for the enthusiasts, right? For these 1 million, or I don't know how many enthusiasts are there, probably 5 million in the world. They're going to look for other companies. They're going to look for Star VR 1. They're going to look for Pimax to please them, to give them what they really need. And well, Facebook, they are not there to please the enthusiasts. They want to reach the mass market. That's what Facebook is about, right? They want to reach the billions of people on this planet, and they will not be able to do that with that Rift 2 that is tethered to a high-end PC. That's why it makes so much sense that they're not going to bring out that Rift 2. They're going to bring out the Quest 2, Quest 3, and so on, and that device is also going to be awesome. Just think about where was the iPhone like 5 years ago, and where is it now? It can play all these awesome games, right? So all these mobile chips, they're going to develop so fast, and then at one point, we're simply going to stream 5G games directly from the edge cloud onto the devices and forget about PC VR gaming. That's right now for us few enthusiasts, but for the mainstream, it's gone, and that's why I'm pretty sure there's not going to be an Oculus Rift 2.
Can I just say on that point? Sorry, this is going to be a long show, isn't it? But going back to what you were saying there, Sebastian, I think there's two ways to look at this. On a business side, I completely agree with you. It makes sense. Why would Oculus go for PCVR? It doesn't make any sense. They want to get as many people in there. It's standalone that they are going for. I completely agree with you on that point of view. But on the alternate to that is the evidence that we're being presented with from what they are saying, and also what has been going on in terms of like OC5. I think that counters it. Now, I'm not saying that I agree that their focus is absolutely on standalone. There's no question of that. Of course, it's on standalone. They want to get all of these people in. My argument is because they are showing the half-dome prototype, they are showing all of these things. What is going to happen to all of that stuff? And I agree, maybe they could just simply say, brush that under the carpet and say, we're not doing that anymore. But at the same time, it's going to be the
Quest 2 or 3, probably, I would say.
Possibly, yeah. But at the same time, I think that because they're showing it at this early stage, there's got to be at least one more PC VR Oculus headset. Now, where they go beyond that, possibly not. I agree. And I can't really argue with anything you've said on the business point of view, because I think you're bang on. I think you're exactly right. The correct thing for them to do is to just focus on standalone, and that makes perfect sense for them. But at the same time, I still do think we are going to get an equivalent of Rift 2. Who knows?
You know, one minor thing I'll say real quick is Facebook owning Oculus. This is one of the downsides of Facebook owning Oculus. Facebook is so huge. They're such a colossal company that a tiny little niche of a niche, it just doesn't do anything for them. They've been doing this PCVR thing, and they they're putting their best foot forward, and they've been, going after it. But I mean, we've got other stories we're going to get to a little bit later where just the PCVR market in general. Like, here's an example. Okay, Zing the Land Beyond. Zing the Land Beyond is a great game. I think it's on sale this weekend for $10, right? And if you go to the Steam page, there's like 79 reviews for Zing the Land Beyond. And the release is September 2017. Now, if it was September 2018 and it had 79 reviews, that's understandable. But this is a great game, a wonderful game. And I think it's just emblematic of our PCVR market. It's a niche within a niche within a niche. It's a small thing. And for a company like HTC Vive or for Star VR or for Pimax, smaller companies that are not these gigantic behemoths of companies, Facebook is almost too big. They're too big to care about such a niche market. Now, what I do think is going to happen, though, going to Gary, and there will be a Rift 2, just to save face, if nothing else, just so their core fan base, they don't want to piss off their core fan base, because their core fan base is loud and obnoxious, and they're not going to want to light the ire of their fan base.
Well, sometimes when it comes to a company, they can still appease to the enthusiast and to the high end. Just because Facebook is large does not mean that they have to ignore a relatively niche segment. So an example of that would be Toyota. They still make the Lexus. Now, Lexus is still a popular brand, but compared to the sales of a Toyota, Lexus is very marginal. And what happens by them investing those R&D dollars and then selling things under the Lexus brand, they're able to fund that R&D. Right. And then that stuff trickles down into the Toyota line. So some of the new high-end features in a Lexus today is going to be a feature in a Toyota 5 years from now or whatever. I don't work in the auto industry. I'm just using that as an example. So I think there's room here for Facebook to, even though it doesn't make a ton of smash business sense directly in terms of reaching 100 million users, because Sebastian is absolutely right. We're not going to have 100 million VR users that with a RTX 2080 Ti's. However, the million or so of us can help give them enough cash flow and give them enough incentive to get technology out there that will trickle down to the Quest 2, Quest 3, and so on. Right. And speaking specifically to the issue at hand. The Quest isn't successful yet. Like, we're all goo goo gaga over it. Yeah, it's amazing standalone, but it's not for sale. Like it wouldn't be incumbent upon Oculus / Facebook to bury the Rift until they see the Quest get successful, even if that's where their primary interest may move to. So, I think in the end, I think, I'm going to send it around one more time. We got to make this quick. And my question to each of you guys are, did the news this week, whatever you believe is happening, and we're split, our audience, I've been following the chat, the audience is split. Do you think the news today, or this week, I'm sorry, that it set back PCVR some, or that no change to PCVR? And I'll go to Sebastian first.
Well, in my opinion, we very clearly go away from PCVR, and that's totally fine, because at one moment in time, everything is simply going to be streamed from the cloud. We're all going to have 5G, and the latency is so small on 5G. All our stream games will be in the cloud. Everything is going to be streamed directly to our glasses, and we will just have a light smile on our faces that we ever had these huge boxes standing around, and we had to connect those boxes. So one more thing that I would want to say about the enthusiasts, the Oculus fans, they will, you're right, I also don't think they were going to say, hey, you know what, Rift 2 is dead. They're not going to say it like this. But you know what, there's a good chance that probably the Oculus Quest 2 can also be connected to the PC, right? So that you have a standalone headset that you can also connect to your PC if you want, something that lots of us had hoped for the Quest 1. So probably they're going to have this kind of option where either you stream your Steam VR games to the Quest 2, and actually they're thinking about this for the Quest 1 as well, or where you simply connect the Quest to your computer via a VR cable, and this is kind of the Rift 2. Also, one more point from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense to have these two stores, right? To have the Oculus Rift store and to have the Quest store. That doesn't make sense. Also, it's strange for the user, right? You bought Beat Saber on the Rift store, and now you got to buy it on the Quest store. For a company like Facebook, it doesn't make sense to have these kind of two stores. So they're going to combine it into one big store, probably with the Quest 2, and then we only going to have this one ecosystem for them, and I think that makes more sense.
I was very critical of the storefront issue myself back when all that came out. Gary, is the news this week relative to Facebook / Oculus, is it a setback to the PCVR community? I don't know if community is right, into the evolution of PCVR, or is it no real change?
I think it's only a setback because of the amount of speculation, and we're just getting a few comments in chat about the amount of speculation that we're making here today, and the only reason we're doing that is because it's fun to speculate and to think about where things are going. So apologies if you don't like the speculation with this, but this is the thing. The fact that Iribe's left and TechCrunch posted that article is really a bad thing to happen for PCVR, but it doesn't necessarily mean that anything long term will come from it. At the same time, I do believe, I agree with pretty much, I think, everybody else on this show, really, that the practical business decision for Facebook is to go standalone. At the same time, I don't think that they will do that in the next generation of Rift. So overall, I think PCVR will get over this. And also, over the next few years, we'll probably see far more manufacturers coming into this if they see it as a viable market for them to develop in.
Yeah, we're waiting on them just like we've been waiting on LG for how long now?
Yeah.
Anthony, I pose the same question to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just go back to, I believe this is a dark day. This is a dark day for PCVR, but no one will really notice this until 2020. That's the point I'm making is like everybody got upset. No one's going to notice any of this until 2020. And then they're going to notice, they're going to be like, gee, it's been a long time since we've got something like Defector or Marvel Powers United or Killing Floor Incursion. It's been an awfully long time, hasn't it? Yeah, it has. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to get a Rift 2. But it's been delayed by at least a year. So you might as well get them Pimax 5K plus orders ready.
All right, so this has been a good subject. We've probably gotten 30 minutes out of it. I didn't think it was going to go that long. I love the topic, and I'm sure we will revisit it from time to time as things like this kick up. But sticking with Oculus, despite the Rift 2 being quote unquote canceled, and the quotes come from the media. I'm not saying it's canceled. We're not saying it's canceled. We're only responding to what's put out there in the media. None of us work for Facebook or Oculus. And I can't speak for Sebastian, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't work for Facebook or Oculus. So all we know is what's out there, and we're giving our take on it. But despite the Rift 2 being canceled, some patents were uncovered this week that basically show that Oculus is looking into some wireless technology for PCVR. The one primary patent that came out was basically a beam focused relay. So that basically, you know, with these high bandwidth, the TP-Cas and the Vive wireless solution, it's such a high frequency that it doesn't really penetrate materials or solid substances very well. So if you have a TP-Cas or a Vive wireless, you can't put it in one room and then put the headset in another room. It won't go through the walls. So it's very easy to occlude the signal. So one of the things that Oculus is investing with this patent is a relay that basically, when using the tracking, say the Rift sensors, if it's constellation based, it knows where the headset is and it knows the orientation of the headset. So if it can sort of preemptively pick up on some occlusion, it can relay the wireless from a repeater, basically, for lack of a better word. Now, I've had the TP-Cas here in my room for several months now. It's very difficult to occlude it, I think. If I put my hands above it, it does occlude. But other than that, when I stoop down or occlude it, it doesn't really happen. And I think it's because the 60 gigahertz bounces off of walls and ceilings really well. So, Sebastian, did you follow this news? Did you see the patents? Does it mean anything in relative to our previous topic without getting into that topic? You know, does it show that the Rift 2 isn't dead? You know, what do you think?
I think the Rift 2 is dead. Even if they have this patent, really, guys, I really don't believe that's going to be any time coming soon. And of course, they are working on these wireless technologies, probably to stream the PCVR signal to the Quest 2 or Rift 2 or however they name it. Probably they're going to come up with another cool brand name to combine Quest and Rift, right? So definitely makes sense that they keep on working on these wireless technologies because, well, as probably all of you have tried already, this wireless VR is just much better than wired, right? It just gives you so much more freedom. And I also have the TP-Cas at home, and it's just so good.
Yeah, I'm going to be grilling you on that later. How do you give up wireless for Pimax? But don't respond to that just yet. Gary, what do you think about these patents?
I don't know. Honestly, we get so many of these patents coming out all the time, don't we? We see them on all of these VR news websites, and we've got Sony patenting all of these different technologies, and Oculus and stuff like this. So it's interesting. I think a lot of the times we never see these things materialize in products. So again, I think it's just sort of too early to even talk about this kind of stuff sometimes. I think it's interesting to talk about in the direction they are thinking, but it might not necessarily materialize into products. So, I've not got too much to say. I think it's a good thing if they are working on these wireless solutions anyway.
All right, Anthony, you got anything to add?
I'm going to throw a number out of my beep about this. Basically, so like I would say 1 out of 30 patents ever materializes, if that. So like a 1 out of 30 chance this will ever see the light of day. So I don't get too caught up in patents. Just the good thing about patents is just to kind of get a sense of where a company's mindset was at a certain particular day and time. And these patents were long before all this Iribe stuff happened. So this doesn't really mean anything. The timing of them coming out is interesting. Very convenient of you, Oculus. No, I'm just kidding. But one thing I do think about in regards to the whole wireless question is, do you guys remember when we heard about that Apple story, where there was a big Apple story where Apple is getting a AR headset or something ready for 2020? Do you guys remember this? There was this Apple story where they were going to have a box, some type of box that would be in the same room, but it would be completely wireless. But like you would have some type of processor box that would be in your room with you, and it was going to beam the signals. I don't remember what technology they were using, but I'm curious about this because we do need to figure this out, because you either go the standalone route where you build the hardware inside, and that's a wonderful route to go in terms of just not having to deal with any kind of minor irritations or stuttering or green lines or any kind of dropped frames or whatever. You build the hardware inside, you eliminate all that. But I also think there will be some type of thing where you have a box that's within about 15 feet of where your headset is, and you get perfect connection. I do see a future of that coming. Maybe this is along those lines.
That box that you're talking of, it could be the iPhone 12.
Exactly.
You know, you simply tether your Apple AR VR headset to the iPhone. It makes so much sense, right? Because you have all these processing power in the iPhones anyways. So why not simply connect it to these AR glasses, and then they can sell iPhones and these AR glasses together? Perfect.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with Anthony that just this patent being here, and I even wrote it here in our notes that it's important to understand that the existence of a patent doesn't mean the existence of a product. That's very much true. But if a product was to be canceled, or, kind of thrown in the trash, then you wouldn't necessarily be filing for patents, because that costs time and money. Moving on. So sticking with hardware, this week we have the official launch, and I'm putting launch in soft quotes, of the Samsung Odyssey Plus. Now, the Odyssey Plus was announced, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago at least. It may be longer. I don't remember. I don't have the information in front of me. But this week we saw it launch on Monday. It said available now, but no one could get one. So now we know that you can order them on Samsung's website, and you were able to order them from the Microsoft Store online before they sold out. Sebastian, I broke your heart last night with that.
You did. You did.
I think some people are still able to pick them up from brick and mortar Microsoft stores. So the Odyssey Plus is out there. We have some early reviews. I myself have ordered one. Unfortunately, it did not come. It's supposed to be here Tuesday. I was wrong when I said Monday last night, Sebastian. So I should have I still
have a chance to get it before you.
My Plus,
if
yes.
I fly over to the U.S.
If you fly over to New York tomorrow and buy one, you'll get it before me. But I'm very excited that I might get a piece of hardware before you. So don't burst my bubble.
Well, you know what? Yesterday, after we chatted, I called the Microsoft store in New York City and asked them if they have the thing there, and they didn't have it.
Perfect. So, while we're chatting, what do you think of the Odyssey Plus?
I think it's a really nice headset from what I've seen, and actually, I already have it here. It's a surprise. This is the Samsung Odyssey Plus. No, I'm kidding. This is the Samsung Odyssey, the old model, which is now available for like $349, which I think is a fantastic price for the Samsung Odyssey. And well, the Samsung Odyssey, it had been my favorite VR headset for quite a while. I think it's a fantastic headset. It's a great price, right? Especially now that it's $349. It's fantastic. It has the same resolution like the Vive Pro. It has better lenses. It has a better microphone. You don't need to put up those the lighthouses, right? It's a great headset. The Samsung Odyssey is really, really great headset, and I enjoyed it so much. And now to see that they are investing in it, that they're coming up with a new version that is even better, it shows they are onto it. They keep onto VR, which is fantastic news for us. That Samsung is still investing on that. And this headset, the Samsung Odyssey, it did have a few problems. So one problem was the nose part here. It was not very comfortable. If you put it on, it was kind of pinching into your nose, and for people with a long and big nose like me, it was not really comfortable to wear this for a long time. And then the other problem was that all the Windows MR headsets have, the Bluetooth. You need to use the Bluetooth connection from your computer. So there were some compatibility issues. So some Bluetooth dongles, they were not as good as others. So that's why some people had problems with their controllers. So I was always wondering, why do some people have problems with their Windows MR controllers? Because for me, it worked perfectly fine. And I was wondering, why do they say, hey, my controller isn't working well? And the reason was, well, they had their Bluetooth dongle somewhere in a strange place on the computer, which was a bit far away. And these problems all resulted because, well, the Bluetooth was not inside the headset, like it's in the Vive Pro, the Vive, the Rift, and the Pimax headsets. And all these problems have been solved with the Samsung Odyssey Plus. There's a Bluetooth dongle inside the headset, so it directly connects to the controllers, which is great. Then they've built a better, the nose part is much larger now, which is better for the comfort. And yeah, then of course there's this better display where they say that they have actually completely got rid of all the screen door effect. And the screen door effect was already not so bad on the Samsung Odyssey. So to hear that it's now gone, of course, that is fantastic news. I did order it already. Unfortunately, I think you're going to have it first, but I'm really looking forward to it and to give it the MRTV review treatment.
For sure. So, for those that don't know, the big point is the SDE screen door effect reduction. Samsung calls it an anti-SDE technology. Now I know Fluke in chat, he may be able to harken back to the DK1 days, but apparently back then, and I don't have direct experience with this, but if you put basically like a saran wrap or type thin plastic layer over the lenses of your DK1 or your DK2, not sure, you could sort of mimic some of this diffuse technology, but I'm assuming Samsung isn't doing it at the lens level and they're rather doing it at the screen level. And basically all it does is it's diffusing some of the light to fill in some of the dark gaps. So this is the same resolution of the existing Samsung Odyssey, but with this additional diffuse technology to kind of fill in the gaps. Now, in actual exposure of this, of course, I have not tried it, but looking at some of the images, the screenshots that people have posted on Reddit, it may give it a softening, like a very PSVR sort of look. But if you imagine a PlayStation VR at a higher resolution, this might be how this looks to some extent. And another way to think about it, my initial reactions is also that, like if you think of Skyrim VR or even Fallout, when you had the different TXAA and FXAA anti-aliasing settings, it just kind of softens the image. Personally speaking, I'm a little bit concerned because I normally rather a sharp, even if I can see some pixels, I like a sharper edge. So I'll be very interested to see if I actually like the screen. And then all the other additions, primarily the Bluetooth edition, I think is very nice. Gary, do you I don't know, did you ever try original Odyssey or any Windows MR? Do you have any particular thoughts here on the Odyssey Plus?
I didn't try the original Odyssey anyway, but I think just going back to what Sebastian was saying earlier, I think it's great that Samsung are persevering with this product anyway. I think that shows some kind of love of VR in some ways, and also sort of encouraging for the fact that they must have seen a reasonable amount of sales in order to continue with this. So I think that's the main thing for me. It feels like an incremental increase in specs, and I would love to try this anti-screen door effect technology that they've got on there. I would love to try that to see what difference it makes. Other than that, I'll be honest, I'm not really that excited by it, but I would really love to try it either way.
Okay, Anthony, you got any Odyssey Plus thoughts?
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. I've read 2 different reviews of it so far. There was one guy like yesterday or the day before that kind of did a review on it, and then I saw another review today. But this is just 2 guys so far. We really need like 8 or 9 different people to get their hands on this and see kind of what the consensus is. But the 2 people that I have read their reviews, they've basically said, look, screen door is pretty much gone. One guy said if you look at a white background and you look very carefully at a white background, you can still kind of see it. And the other guy also said he was playing Robo Recall, and he was saying, you know, those drones that fly above you in Robo Recall, that if you look up at the drone, normally it's quite, you see the screen door on the drone pretty well. And he was saying that when the drones are flying over, you can't see the screen door, but it makes them look kind of Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3-ish quality. But I think that's an individual thing that is flying around. I don't think he's saying it makes Robo Recall look like an Xbox 360 or PS3 game. I think he's saying, like, you focus in on some specific things, maybe it kind of does soften it a little. I mean, that's really the question. Is it too soft? Like, is the removal of screen door adding this softening, is that worse? Is that worth it? Or is the softening such a minor thing that you're willing to take that trade-off and kind of, from a perceived standpoint, eliminate screen door? Now, I have a question for Sebastian. Okay, so when it comes to the 5K Plus, like if we were comparing this Samsung Odyssey Plus and the 5K Plus, if somebody's looking at both of these headsets, right? And let's say that somebody has... let's say somebody has a 1080 Ti, but they have no plans of upgrading that 1080 Ti. What would you tell them to do, Sebastian? Because what I've heard, when you get the Pimax 5K Plus, don't you really need a GPU upgrade as well, or no?
Well, actually, before, when I just received the Pimax 5K Plus, I had it GTX 1070, and that was truly not good enough. So then I did the upgrade. I got the GTX 1080 Ti, and on the GTX 1080 Ti, I can run my Pimax 5K Plus without any problems. It's fantastic. So I don't think you absolutely need the RTX 2080 Ti. Of course, it's better. Probably you're going to gain, like, I don't know, 10 frames per second, which can make the difference for some games. But overall, I would say, hey, the RTX 2080 Ti is much too expensive and it's not worth it at this moment in time to upgrade it to it. So with the 1080 Ti, if that is your question, you can still enjoy the 5K Plus a lot. And for the comparison between the Odyssey Plus and the 5K Plus, definitely that's going to come up on MRTV.
Okay. Well, last week when we started the show, I talked about, the situation with my brother-in-law passing away the week prior. And I want to thank everybody for the very positive comments that I received, the various emails and comments in the thread. So, sort of an update to that. I mentioned that his wife, my sister-in-law, was pregnant. The baby came on Friday. And Friday was the day that I pre-ordered ordered, I guess, because it launched, the Odyssey Plus, but it's also the day that I pre-ordered my Pimax. And, I say this here, as a suggestion maybe to some of the guys out there, but, if you have a baby born in your family, it's a fantastic day to buy 2 VR headsets. So, basically, I'm at the hospital. Oh, she's beautiful. Look how much hair she has. By the way, I ordered 2 VR headsets, and her little toes are amazing. So, that's kind of how I broke the news to my wife. But,
okay. It's a girl?
Yes, it's a baby girl.
Okay, because if it had been a boy, you could have called him Sam or Max.
That's very perfect. Samsung, yeah, I picked it up. Where I was going with that is, in addition to buying the Odyssey Plus, I did pre-order the Pimax, and I'm segueing. It was very poor, or very well done segue. I'm not sure, but segueing into the next step is that Pimax pre-orders opened up this week for those that did not back the project via Kickstarter. I believe pre-orders opened on Thursday initially, but there was lots of problems with the website. I just happened to be in the office, doing some development work. I'm normally out in the field and plants and everything. So, luckily I was in the office. So I was F5ing the webpage over and over and over. And
that's why the website went down.
Maybe.
Because so many people were like reloading.
So the orders went up, and then the following day, they sort of fixed their website. And I think the, community manager, and I don't know how to say her name, maybe you can correct me, Jinshu. she commented and said that, we realized we didn't have the correct web developer, that we were doing it in-house. So whatever they did, the next day they got the web store working pretty well and cleaned it up. So I did get an order in. So setting the website and the issues away, and there's sends up a few red flags, and I get that people are concerned about the lack of professionalism there as it relates to the website, and I agree that there are concerns. But the last week we talked about the leak that came out before pre-orders, and it had the 5K Plus at $799. We now know that it's actually $699, so it's $100 less. The same price on the 8K, which is $899, and then the other sort of surprise model, that leak had it called, I believe, a 5K S or something like that, but Pimax is calling it the 5K Business Edition, and it is a OLED version. Probably has some better colors, but they're kind of taking the stance that it's for business interest and maybe not particularly enthusiasts. And then additionally, you could buy any of the headsets with an available hand tracking module for $170 additional. All these prices are in US. And then lastly, they had some bundles with a colorful RTX 2080. I'm not sure what that meant.
Colorful.
Like, it's colorful, yeah. Like they didn't say that it was an EVGA or an MSI, but you could buy a 2080 with your Pimax.
You don't want to get the black and white edition, right? You want to go for the colorful edition.
Exactly, the Wizard of Oz edition. So I'll send it to first. We'll go to Sebastian last, but Gary. I know you didn't order one, and I'm sorry. But do you where do you stand? Like, one of the big things in watching other podcasts or just listening to the community as a whole, where do you feel in terms of their professionalism, or if you had the money, or not to say that you don't have $699, but if you wanted to spend the money, what would your reservations be? Are you concerned with it being a Chinese company, a less proven company, anything in that realm?
Very, very slight concerns, honestly, but not really, based on the impressions that have come out of Sweeviver and obviously MRTV as well, and Voodoo. I think you should be pretty confident that if you've got one of these pre-ordered, or if you were a Kickstarter backer, that it's going to fulfill whatever your expectations are, within reason, of course. Honestly, Steve, I'm a little bit jealous. I'm just jealous of you and Sebastian. I want one of these. Now the problem is, I might get one at some point in the future. The thing is, because as well, we're going to need to purchase the base stations again, and the Vive controllers and this kind of stuff. It all adds up. So yeah, it's not really something that I'm looking at the moment, but I definitely would love to get one of these at some point in the future. And I'm sure, I'm really looking forward to you giving your impressions on the Pimax on this show as well. And actually, over the past couple of months, what MRTV, Sebastian, and Sweeviver have done to give us really in-depth impressions of the Pimax has been absolutely fantastic. I've watched those videos several times, actually. Yeah, really, really interesting stuff. And I would actually be pretty confident if you are a Kickstarter backer, or you've got a pre-order, I think you'd be pretty confident that these are going to fulfill.
Yeah, I think it's going to fulfill. I do have some concerns, but basically I was at a point where, I got tired of being on the outside. I was very close to backing it last year. Finances weren't what they are right now. And honestly, I feel like I'm standing outside the club. And to kind of echo some of your comments there, Gary, Sebastian, I think you and Martin Sweeviver, and I don't speak German, but Voodoo DE, I think you guys have done such a really good job selling this headset for them. Like you're like, I don't, if you guys were never involved, I don't know that it would be as successful as it's been. So kudos to you. Thanks. And Anthony, before I circle back to Sebastian, where do you stand on Pimax, all things considered? I think I know where you stand, but I'll let you speak for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was when Sebastian said no, you could do just fine with the 1080 Ti. That kind of popped my bubble, because it was like that was my excuse for not thinking about a Pimax 5K plus. Like I've always just kind of ignored it because I'm like, oh man, you got to update your, you got to upgrade your GPU. And for all of us, we all need to add like actual Vive base stations and controllers and whatnot as well. So it does kind of, it makes you add all these things together, and it creates this gigantic lump sum that you have to deal with, and so it does make it a little bit daunting. But yeah, I mean, I'm jealous of everybody that has this. It's a whole new world, right? You're in there and it looks so much better. I would love to check it out. Hopefully like some VR arcades and stuff. I want to check out like Star VR and all this stuff. Maybe if I take a trip up to San Francisco, I can check some of this stuff out at a VR arcade or something.
Yeah. So what I was thinking we could do here, because, we've talked about the Pimax a fair amount in the past, but we haven't had someone on the show with direct experience. So both you, Anthony and Gary, hopefully you have some questions queued up. But I'll start it off and I'll send it your way, Sebastian. You mentioned the Samsung Odyssey being your favorite headset up till the Pimax. You've mentioned having wireless VR, and I know you appreciate that. I have wireless VR, and I don't want to give it up. But how do you, what's your, is it even a debate at all internally that you have in terms of giving up wireless or giving up any other features to almost exclusively play with the Pimax? Is it worth going back to the cord?
It is absolutely worth it. It's like as if you would be asking me, you get this great black and white television, right? It has this awesome features, and I don't know, you have a mobile black and white television, but now you got to go back to like this to this new color television. Obviously, you're going to go for the color television. It's just such a huge difference, and therefore, it's fine to use the cord again, even though, of course, I also prefer the wireless thing. But, the Pimax is also going to get the wireless module, right? So then it's going to come all together. Just the difference of the Pimax as compared to all the headsets that are currently on the market is just so huge. And I've said it like lots of times on my show and actually also in my review. Once you go wide FOV, you cannot go back, and you get used to that wide FOV so fast. Once you're going to try it for a couple of minutes or 1 hour, and then you're going to put on the Vive or the Vive Pro, it's going to be hilarious. Probably you have watched my show. I had a German writer, a German tech journalist over, and I showed him the headsets, the Pimax and the 5K Plus and the Pimax 8K, and he was using it for 2 hours. And then I gave him the Vive Pro to check, and he was just giggling and laughing, and he was like, "What? How could I ever enjoy that?" And it's really just the sensation that you're also going to feel like when you go back to the current generation 100 degrees horizontal field of view headsets. It's really a huge leap. It's a big leap. It's a magic leap. Definitely.
Did you rehearse that comment? So, I'm showing a portion of your review, and you point out a vertical field of view. We spend so much time talking about horizontal field of view, and I know there was a little bit of controversy that broke a couple months ago that this was originally being described, whether accurately or inaccurately, whatever. Not so much concerned about the issue itself as a 210 degree field of view.
200 they said, I think.
Yeah, 200. Sorry. The vertical field of view, I don't think maybe gets enough discussion. Can you kind of let us know, what impact does an increase in vertical field of view, what impact does it have?
Well, immersion, right? It's really all about the immersion, and it goes together with that horizontal field of view, which is much wider. It's just, you're there, right? It's just such a big difference, and we all kind of dismissed the short field of view of the current generation headsets because we were so fascinated by VR in the first place, right? So we totally dismissed those problems because we were just fascinated by VR in general. But now now that you have something like the Pimax or the Star VR1 or the X-Tal, now those problems of the first generation headsets, they really, really show very clearly, especially once you have tried it. And yeah, for the vertical FOV, of course, if you don't see any kind of black stripes on the top anymore and everything is just screen, it's what you guys want to experience. So definitely, Anthony and Gary, I do believe you should head over to pimaxvr.com and put in those pre-orders as soon as possible.
Stop it, Sebastian.
So now,
let me show you the beautiful device. Only $699.
So you're obviously an influencer in the VR community, and I feel like a very successful one. To a degree, I feel that here on VR Roundtable, we are also influencers, maybe not quite as successful. So can you get with Junshu and say, look, my buddy Steve, he just pre-ordered one. He's given you the money, but he needs to talk up the Pimax on his podcast and kind of help me skip the line a little bit here.
I'll try my best.
If you have any success with that, Sebastian, then obviously point him my way as well.
So I think I'm very, very early in the pre-orders, like within the first dozen to 2 dozen. So I'm effectively, the end of the Kickstarter backers. So I don't think I'm going to be getting it till, February or something like that, maybe. So I got a little while to figure out base stations, and I'm hoping that Knuckles is somewhere on the horizon, so I don't have to invest in the Vive ones, because I'm not particularly a fan of them. Gary, did you have any specific Pimax questions, things that maybe don't creep up in reviews, or kind of anything we can leverage Sebastian's time here?
The main thing is, and I think this is something that both you and Sweevive have mentioned in the reviews, but I just wanted to sort of go over it again, because the thing, when I look at this device, I see the lenses, I see the wide field of view, and all I'm thinking is the distortion that must occur on the periphery. That's okay. I'm not saying that's a problem or anything like that. What I'm saying is, do you notice that more than anything else, or is it just sort of faded away? Do you not notice like the distortion that must occur?
Well, that's a great question. And actually, I'm one of these people who are very sensitive to distortion. I totally see it. The most little amount of distortion, I will think like, oh fuck, that sucks. So so I can tell you guys that on the large field of view setting, there are like 3 settings, right? Large, normal, and small field of view setting. On the large field of view setting, it is disturbing me to a degree that I don't want to play it, even though it is a fantastic field of view, even bigger than the normal field of view. But I don't want to play it. But on the normal field of view, they really did a great job to just cut that part away. Yeah, that's how they solve problems. They just cut that part away, and then actually you really don't have a problem. It's very nice, and they totally improved their lens profiles as compared to the lens profiles that the testers. So I was one of the testers, as you know, right? That we had to deal with in that 3 month of testing and improving the device. So I'm really happy that they kind of got around to that problem, and I don't think that anyone would have a problem with the normal field of view. And we're seeing that now the first devices have reached the backers, and on all these backer meetings in the States now, and then in Berlin a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, people were just impressed, and nobody was speaking of a huge problem with distortion. Everybody was just wondering, when can I get my hands on it? When are you going to start the pre-orders? How fast are you going to make it happen that everyone who wants one is going to get one? So I hope that answers your question. Yeah. For that distortion, I don't think you're going to have a problem. If I don't have a problem, you won't have a problem as well.
See, I have a thing where, like, I like to read Reddit whenever I am. Wherever I'm idle, if I'm riding in a car and I'm not driving, I'll pull Reddit up, or, always reading Reddit. And I read all these reviews, or firsthand accounts of people. And one of the consistent themes is, I can't go back to my Vive. I can't go back to my Rift. I can't go back to whatever. And it's just that much of a shift in just experience. So, for that, I was kind of like, despite some of my concerns and worry about support and worry about GPU power, I have a 1080 Ti and I vowed to get a 2080 Ti as soon as they actually hit that $999 MSRP. But, you know, I kind of forego all that. And it's like, you know, I'm tired of reading about these firsthand accounts and being on the outside. Anthony, do you have any questions poised up here for Sebastian that are maybe outside of review information, some sort of, you know, less common elements discussed?
I mean, my number one question would be, I remember when we first heard about these super wide field of view headsets, and I believe Palmer Luckey was on Reddit at one point, and he was saying, well, we've tried all of this in our labs and we found out that it was not the way to go. But then, you know, I hear Sebastian saying that it's this night and day difference. You can't go back. And so if it really is this night and day difference, and if it's just like a, you know, you got to imagine that once the general population starts getting their hands on these things and everybody starts jumping into Reddit and saying, oh my God, this is a night and day difference. Get rid of your Vives now. You know, what are you doing? It's all about Pimax. What does this do to Oculus and HTC and Samsung and everybody else? Like, don't they have to respond to this in some way? Like, is it going to be that big of a problem for all these other companies?
Well, I think it's going to be a problem for them, or actually it's good for the consumer because, well, these companies like StarVR 1, Xtal, and Pimax, they are really pushing the VR industry forward. It's something that HTC and Oculus doesn't dare to do now because, well, the experience is not yet perfect, right? So I can still see a bit of distortion there on the large FOV, for example, and probably this kind of trade-off Oculus and HTC, they don't want to do. Probably they simply want to deliver the perfect experience, and they're not ready to try something. And I think like what Pimax is doing and what StarVR 1 is doing, they are fine with trying something, with experimenting, even though it's not perfect. And I said in my review, I think there are still some flaws, but the pros, they completely outweigh the cons. And that is what Pimax and StarVR 1 and Xtal is doing. And I think Oculus and HTC, they're not ready to deal with this kind of trade-off. They don't want to experiment. They want to go the safe route because they want to reach the mass market.
Perfect. You're mentioning the StarVR and the Xtal. I know you've tried the StarVR. Well, I guess I assume you've tried the Xtal now at this point. Where does the Pimax sit? Like, I know you're probably, if you could choose a StarVR, you would maybe go that way. But we also know that it's considerably more expensive and also not yet available. But if you could put the StarVR, the Xtal, and the Pimax, and then choose the Odyssey or the Vive Pro and put them on a scale of 1 to 10, just how much better,
wow.
You know, just off the cuff, go with your gut. Where do each of those kind of sit?
Okay. You put me in a very tough position.
This is interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to hear this.
Wow. How many people are watching this right now?
150 only, I think.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. So I cannot really give you that numbers. The reason why is it would be unfair since I have only tried the StarVR 1 in that beautiful demo environment, which was perfectly set up to show me the perfect experience. So it would be unfair, right? Because I really have tried the Pimax with every possible game out there, or at least with the game that I play, right? The Sweetviver has tried it with all the games. And also the same with Xtal. I've tried it in Prague, also for like a couple of hours, but it's like, I could give you that estimation if I had all three devices here in Germany. So dear StarVR 1, send them over to MRTV headquarters, and also Xtal. So, but I can give you an impression. I can tell you that StarVR 1, it simply blew me away. I mean, you probably watched my video where I did that hands-on in Berlin at the IFI exhibition. So the thing is with the StarVR 1, the field of view is even more extreme than on the Pimax and on the Xtal. The field of view is truly unbelievable. You don't see any kind of black black parts on the right or left anymore. Everything is screen, and the same to the top. Everything is just screen. The only black thing that I was still seeing was around my nose. Right? It's just like it just blew me away in that moment in time. And the same can be said about the distortion. There was basically no distortion anymore because the lens distortion profile that they're using for the Star VR1, actually it depends on the IPD that they automatically measure, right? So that's why the lens distortion profile is just so good. And after they have activated that eye tracking, I couldn't see any distortion anymore on that huge field of view, and I was basically in that other world, completely immersed. Wow. So I can just tell you guys, let's wait for the pricing. Let's see where that's going to bring us. Hopefully it's not going to be too expensive, but that was basically the best thing in VR that I've ever tried. But I must say, what Pimax here is bringing to the table for $699 is pretty amazing, right? Probably the Star VR1 is going to cost $5,000. And then to have something like the Pimax 5K Plus, which actually is pretty close to the Star VR1. Wow. I must say that is really an awesome feat. And I can just say, wow, congratulations, Pimax, for pulling that off. So while the field of view is not as awesome as for the Star VR1, the Pimax field of view is still awesome. And as what the picture quality is concerned, well, it is. I can simply remember it from that 1 hour that I had with the Star VR1, where it was very, very good, but it was not like, oh wow, I don't see any screen door effect anymore. It was very tough to see the screen door effect with the Star VR1, but I believe if you still want to find it, you can still find it. So it's not the Oasis VR headset, right? That where everything is just perfect. The resolution is the same like the 5K Plus. They're using RGB stripe, which is great, and it's an OLED panel, right? This is the great thing about the Star VR1, and it's probably going to be worth the money. For the X-Tal, what is really cool about the X-Tal device, they try everything to make the picture itself as clear as possible. So also they optimize the lenses, and the picture on the X-Tal, it looks super, super crisp. And it does look more crisp than on the 5K Plus and on the 8K. And I don't really remember anymore if it was the same like Star VR1. I simply need to spend more time with it. But I just recently tried the X-Tal again, the new version. I've just uploaded a new video where I interview the X-Tal CEO. And they have changed the lenses again, and it's really an awesome device as well. But this is not for us. This is for the industry, right? This is for enterprise. Completely targeted at looking at AutoCAD models of cars and spaceships and whatever. So this is not for us. It is I think it's $5,000. It's very expensive, but it's very, very clear. And but the field of view is not as good as the Pimax or the Star VR1. But it's a niche device in a niche. Hopefully Perfect. That kind of answers your questions.
Yeah, so I get that it was an unfair question, right? And Sweeviver mentioned this in chat as well, that the you can't really compare these non-consumer devices with a consumer device. Exactly. And I think that's a very fair point. And I think the reason the thought behind my asking, as a person that hasn't been fortunate enough to try any of this stuff, I need to live in Europe apparently, is to kind of see, how close is the Pimax to the Star VR1 experience, because I'm going to get a Pimax. I'm probably not going to get a Star VR1. Now, that being said, I could probably sell my Rift, my Pimax, my Odyssey, and I might actually be able to get a Star VR1. So, Gary, Anthony, you got anything else you guys want to touch on Pimax before we move on, or?
No, I think I think that's been pretty interesting anyway, and I'll just reiterate the fact that I'm very jealous of both of you guys, and maybe I will take the plunge at some point in the next few months, but we'll see how it goes.
and I will reiterate that I'm very, very, very serious about leveraging you as a contact to maybe get my Pimax bumped up. Okay, let's move on a little bit. The next thing we had listed is the Oculus Go screencasting is now a feature that's been available, and I was able to try it earlier in the week, and I think the short of it is that they push a update down. At some point you get the update. Maybe everyone has them now. I'm not sure. It was sort of a rolling update. It wasn't an update that everyone got at the same time. But once you have the update, you basically you need to reboot your Go. Like the feature wasn't there until I rebooted my Go, but once you do that, when you're playing a game, you just hit the menu button and you go to the sharing tab, for lack of a better word, and there's a button there for casting. And then I have an iPhone, and maybe it's different for different mobile platforms, but then you sort of have to acknowledge the cast on your iPhone, which can be problematic if you're in VR and also trying to acknowledge the casting. But it works. The video is very compressed. I tried it on multiple. I have a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz network here at the house, and it looked a little bit better on the 5 gigahertz, but it was very compressed in either situation. But in the end, I don't think it matters. I think the feature is meeting its need, because the biggest use case for it at this point is basically if you're showing your Go to someone, and all of us that have an Oculus Go have experienced this, but if you're showing your Go to someone and they don't use VR, they've never used an Oculus Go, you're trying to explain to them where to point, where to click, and just kind of where to navigate. This really helps with all of that. So, Gary, did you try the casting feature at all, or were you on the road?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. But I did hear a few people that had tried it, and I don't really know too much about it, unfortunately. But I think it's great that they've got this thing, and if people can share their VR experiences. I think the one thing is it's more for, I guess, demoing to people. So if they can put the headset on, and as somebody that's already been in VR, and you can sort of coordinate them on what to do, it's more valuable from that point of view, more than anything else. But I think it's great that people can do that. So yeah, it's a good feature to add on, but I've not had a chance to try it now.
Okay. Anthony, I know you were at one point having some issues. I caught a part of a VR game rankings episode. So, did you get it sorted out? Have you checked it out?
Yeah, no, the last time I tried it, I've turned my Oculus Go on and off a billion times now. I've had it plugged in, and I've had it paired to my phone, and because I've I've paired like controllers to my phone and all of that. So I don't know. It just I go to the sharing thing and it's not there. So maybe if I tried it today, it'd be there. I mean, it's apparently rolling out slowly. As far as what it does, I do think this is important, though, because especially if you have a phone that can beam the signal to your TV as well, and then if you can do casting and then actually beam that to your TV, because I could imagine being in a living room situation. For example, Thanksgiving isn't that far away, right? I took my Oculus Go over to a barbecue party, birthday party kind of a thing, and I had all kinds of people in it trying it out. And it was really the hit of the party. Like, people were blown away that there's VR that's that good for $200. But it was really hard because, like, people be like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? And you can't see what they're seeing, you know? So it is a major benefit for demoing it, even if it's kind of blurry and it freezes and stuff like that. You can kind of see where the person is, and you're like, oh, okay, up there in the left corner, click on that, you know, whatever. So you can kind of guide them through. But you know what? I watched a video from Mike, Virtual Reality Oasis. He was talking about the casting. And at the end of his video, he was talking about the Quest, and he was saying this needs to be way the hell better for Quest. And I agree. It needs to, because this is huge. It's, if you can't show other people what someone is seeing in the headset, that's a real pain right there. It needs to be easy, simple, and look relatively well. And I hope if there's some other little chip that needs to be included in the Quest or some other kind of feature or whatever, they really need to figure that out, because you really need to be able to get whatever is on a Quest onto your TV so that in a living room situation, everybody's like, oh yeah, with sound and everything. You know what I mean? It might be difficult, but God, they got to figure out a way to do that.
So sound doesn't work with casting, and as we all know, if you try to record from within the Go, it doesn't record sound. So at this point, without I may be an electrical engineer, but I'm not like a silicon level electrical engineer. So I'm assuming it's something in the chipset or something that just kind of doesn't give them the capability to capture audio and relay it or simply record it. So I don't think we're going to get audio. I could be wrong. You know, they say Carmack has lots of magic in his fingertips, so maybe he'll figure it out. But also casting is going to come to the Chromecast. So if you got one of those USB Chromecast things you plug into your TV, you'll be able to cast directly to it without relaying through an iPhone into an Apple TV or something like that, which I have not tried. It seems like it would be really latent and it would be asking an iPhone to do a lot. The next
Steve, real quick, did you try it on a tablet at all?
I have not. I do have an iPad, but you know, I kind of gave it a go and just wanted to see what it was like. And I don't think it's something I'm going to use a ton. But I think I'm going to use it in the use case that you described when I'm demoing or showing people the Oculus Go. You know, that's really the only use case I get for it. The next little small news story, and I'll just ramble it off. If you guys want to jump in, you can. Otherwise, we'll move past it. But earlier in the week, CCP Games was in the news. I believe it was an Upload article. But they basically had made a high-level comment that said, we expected VR to be 2 to 3 times as big as it was. Of course, if we all remember, they shut down one of their studios, sold off the Eve brand, I believe, and all that. So I don't know where they stand as a company, really. I haven't tracked it that close, but I also remember that they released Spark, which is a game that I actually liked. I thought it was a pretty good game. Either way, you know, they kind of pulled out and they're saying that the market wasn't as big as they thought it would be, and thought that it should be 2 to 3 times as large. The only other thing I kind of had noted here to say with that is that, you know, when the Rift and the Vive launched in early 2016, eValkyrie was exclusive to the Rift. And then later in the year when PSVR launched, you could play eValkyrie there. So, a market being 2 to 3 times as big, well, you cut off, you know, at the time, what was the more successful PCVR headset in the HTC Vive. So, I'm not sure there's a lot of credence necessarily to what they say, but maybe there is some. Moving on, we can talk about some games. That's really all we had here for news. So, the first game I want to get into is, the Zero Caliber beta. That's probably the more popular thing from this week. I'll send it to you, Anthony, first. Did you play Zero Caliber and just kind of, you know, walk us through the game and let us know what you think?
Yeah, I played the demo. There was a lot of excitement for this demo. People were waiting for the demo. It got delayed like a day or whatever, and everybody was looking forward to getting into it. This is not my genre. You know, I'm not the Firewall 0 Hour guy. I'm not the standout Onward Pavlov guy. It's just not my thing. However, I can appreciate a good one of these. Like, for example, Firewall 0 Hour on PlayStation VR. I can play that even though I suck. It works very well. And I really love the 3D audio there. I think they did an outstanding job with the 3D audio. But I tried this Zero Caliber demo. And for me, the smooth locomotion is very fast and fluid, which is nice. You know, you move very quickly around. They are doing this inverse kinematics, you know, with your shoulders and your arms and everything. And it's actual full body inverse kinematics. But the one thing where this bothers me is I kept having, first of all, well, let me back up and just say it's pretty obvious this was designed with an HTC Vive in mind, not an Oculus Rift. All the menus and everything are showing Vive wands, and that's normally not that big of a deal, but I kept having all these control problems. Like I kept dropping my gun, dropping my clips or something, or my magazines, and I would try to pick them up. And then my inverse kinematic body that has me weighing 300 pounds or whatever, I can't even see my gun. And I'm trying to reach down and pick up my gun. And sometimes I pick up the gun. Sometimes I don't. At one point in the demo, I had this like one sniper rifle gun, accidentally dropped that somehow, never could get it back. So I had a number of bugaboos throughout this demo. graphically, I thought graphically it was colorful. And it looked pretty good, although there was a lot of shimmering, a lot of aliasing on all the edges everywhere. Very Drive Club and Fallout 4-ish on the edges of things. But I thought it was colorful and the guns sounded good. And like other humans walking around and stuff, it was almost creepy looking at some of these other humans walking around because it's weird. They kind of looked really realistic to me in certain ways. So I don't know. It was kind of hit and miss for me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
I thought it was pretty good. So I played this just pretty briefly, actually, but I wanted to get a bit of a feel for it. The only thing, and I pretty much agree with what Anthony said, the problem is this is not really my genre, so I'm sort of struggling a little bit with that. I'm always battling against that whenever I play one of these kinds of games. But I thought when I went in there, it was pretty well polished. There's a little bit of a frustration when you play these games that are trying to present some kind of realistic mechanics with the slightly off-kilter controls that you get with either the Vive or the Rift. So you have to basically assemble your guns. In the tutorial, you have to assemble the guns. And that was okay, and I'm glad that there are developers pushing forward and doing this kind of stuff because I think it's great for immersion. But at the same time, I do sometimes wonder that if they go too far with it, the controls are simply not quite there yet in order to get like the dexterity of your hands and things like that are not quite there to fulfill the promise of what the game offers. So I think that it suffers from a little bit of that. So it's a little bit frustrating to assemble these guns in sometimes. And I ran into a bug where parts of the gun were going missing when I started to assemble it. I dropped a few things and then I couldn't find them. They weren't really anywhere either. So I think there's a few bugs like that. But, you know, small problems aside, I do like the feel of the game, and again, because it's not my genre, I can't really comment too much. But I did really enjoy the amount of time I spent in there. But you know, I'll have to see where it goes. Really, I hope they get a few of these bugs sorted out.
Yeah, I think you know, I think that's a very, very good point. Like with the release of the Vive 2 years ago, and then later in the year with the touch controllers on the Rift, we've catered to this mindset of having your hands presence and room scale and all that, and adding to realism. And I've always sort of held the position that for me, immersion isn't necessarily hand presence in every game. I think all else being equal, you know, hand presence is better. But Zero Caliber here is an example of that, like where the hand presence and the convolution, and the stream lost, reconnecting. Okay, so apologies. This is the first time that's ever happened. So anyways, the game sort of gets in the way, and I know some of that's a learning curve. It was there somewhat with Onward, and I kind of felt with Zero Caliber, like when I was ready to shoot, like I was dealing with the gun. It was more of a put a gun together and reload simulator and less focused on the combat. Now, this is just an early look at the game. We don't have all the missions. You know, we don't have everything put together yet, but I'm just concerned about the market that is still kind of riding the 2016 wave to a point where we're so focused on this newer technology that in terms of games, we're getting in the way of what's fun for a game. And I kind of felt that here. I think it's a good game, and I think they have a lot of bugs to sort out. I think the graphics, it look good. Anthony, you're definitely going to have to get some super sampling going. I think it's got a lot of potential of you know, comparing it to Zero Kill that we talked about last week, and kind of thinking through a lot of these games, you know, Firewall, 0 Hour, and recent memory. I think this game has a lot of potential and could be kind of shake up the online shooter market a little bit. But I still sort of have those similar concerns that sort of keep kind of reoccurring ever so often. Like, I don't necessarily want to be fumbling with putting a gun together when I just want to shoot people. Sebastian, do you have any, I don't know if you've played any of the games that we're going to talk about, or, you know, feel free to jump in. Just kind of, I took it to a theoretical level, without direct game experience. So I don't want to leave you out.
For Zero Caliber, I haven't yet had the time to play it. I also have it here on my disc, but yeah, I was on vacation in Turkey at the beach having adult beverages, which was also very good. So I didn't have time yet to play Zero Caliber, but also just like Anthony and Gary, I'm not really a big fan of shooters. I mean, I do play them sometimes, and I love Doom, for example. Doom VR, I love the hell out of it. But I wouldn't play like hour-long Onward Session or Zero Caliber. But also, just like Anthony said, Firewall is incredible, and if the games are awesome, I'm also going to play them. But what I really play the shit out of is Astro-Bot. And I just want to let Anthony know, Anthony, when you were on Game Rankings and when you totally hyped it, I loved it. And even though on the next day you felt kind of ashamed for you going crazy about the game, I felt like, no, don't feel bad about it. Astro-Bot is just as good as you have said in your first impression video.
So my family, we were out at Disney when the guys got to talk about Astro-Bot. I didn't get to make that show, and I did catch part of Anthony's show, and I saw him hype it up, and then his follow up the second day, and I'm thinking like, no, the hype is still worth it. Don't walk it back.
The hype is real.
Because
the hype is real. It's great.
Astro-Bot is amazing, and for those that haven't been with VR Roundtable all year, at the end we don't know when we're doing it, but presumably late December we'll do our Game of the Year episode, and I think I wouldn't be going out on too much of a limb and saying that it's going to rank pretty high on all of our lists. Another game that we can talk about here is the Witching Tower. If I say Witching Hour, I apologize. Like, it's such an easy slip up. It was like back in the day when we had InSpace and Everspace right around the same time. But the Witching Tower is a game that we'd had for a while, but the developer kind of pushed back and wanted to delay launch a little bit. The developer is Daily Magic Productions. I don't have the US price, but the Euro price is $15.49. Gary, I'll send it back your way. What do you think of the Witching Tower?
Okay, so scratch the surface, to lend a phrase from Anthony. I think you mentioned that a few times on your show. So I scratched the surface of this, but I did go in on Friday, a couple of days ago, for the first time into this game. And actually, I did catch a few of your episodes, Anthony, of VR Game Rankings, where you were talking about some performance issues with this. And I think everybody was sort of complaining about some kind of performance issues anyway. But by the time I went in there for the first time, I didn't have any performance issues at all. It was running really, really well. And actually, I was very impressed with this. I think this is actually it's something that I want to continue with. I definitely do. And I say I've only scratched the surface, so I've only played around about 45 minutes of it so far. But the game is really good. The graphics are fantastic. There's a narrative to it that you can progress through, which is always something that I look for in these kinds of games. I love a narrative that will pull you through the game, and this doesn't disappoint. I think it's great. So it's kind of like you start off, it's very difficult to describe because you don't know exactly what's going on in the early parts of this game, but at the same time it's familiar enough in terms of its gaming mechanics and that kind of stuff that you can immediately feel at ease. But so it sort of sets you in this world with a teleport locomotion, but you can change that to free roam locomotion. What Steve, I think it was Steve who said earlier about the locomotion in Zero Caliber, or it might have been Anthony, where it was very quick, and you have to be careful about how you set this up, because I automatically, whenever I play games like Skyrim or something like that, I always put the free roam locomotion up to the maximum setting in terms of speed, so I can sort of go through the world. With this game, if you do that, you're going to be moving around ridiculously quick, so I had to tone that down a little bit. But I enjoyed what I've played so far. It's progressing through a world where you have to solve puzzles, and there's also a little bit of combat. The negative side of this, really the only negative I've got about it from my very short amount of time that I've played with it, is the melee combat doesn't feel great. There's no weight behind your attacks of these enemies that you come into contact with. They almost sort of flutter away. It's like you're combating these bats and these other creatures that are around, and there's no weight. You don't feel even like you've hit them. There's no like a haptic feedback or anything like that from what I remember, and it's like they just fall away. There's nothing of that. So I wish they could sort of do some kind of update to combat that. But other than that, I really enjoyed my time with this. I'm definitely going to continue playing with it.
Yeah, I think I think it's a good game, and I have to assume that the development studio is very small, if not kind of singular person sort of level. I like a lot of what the game is doing, but I think it needs a little more time in the oven. You were talking about the combat there, Gary, and yes, it was lacking some sort of substance to the strikes, and we know just in general with VR that it's very difficult to get melee right. Like, well, hell, I'm not sure any game has ever gotten it right. You're lacking those external forces and that external resistance. But setting that aside, we have games like I'm drawing a blank. The one game the very first year that was really good in this
Vanishing Realms.
Vanishing Realms, yeah. V was on my tongue. But you have a game like Vanishing Realms, and then you have the boxing games like Knockout League and Creed, and you can get a sort of impact from your melee. It can be done, and this game I think should kind of look into some of that. But at a high level, I would say I'm early on as well. I like the feel of it. I like the production values. I think they just got to put a little more in some of the locomotion. I was getting stuck kind of walking around corners and stuff. Like some of that little quality control type polish is what this game needs before I could fully recommend it. But either way, it's a relatively cheap game. I think that it's got a lot going for it. Hey, Anthony?
Yeah, I had kind of a roller coaster ride with this game because the very first day I played it, it definitely had some problems. And then I kind of almost written it off like, oh, this is just not a very good game. And then Paradise Decay, the next day in chat, was saying that, no, apparently they've patched it and everybody's saying it's working right now. It's working well now. So I went back into it, and it was a big difference. Like there was constant stuttering and hitching, and that was all gone. Now I can judge the game just based on what it is. And it's weird to me because this game is $20 in the US, $19.99, which is a pretty good price. That's a decent price there. And there's definitely certain moments in the Witching Tower VR where it has like almost a AAA quality at certain times. There's certain sequences that get activated where I'm like looking around at it, I'm like, wow, they did a pretty good job right here. But there's other parts where it's kind of janky. Like Steve was talking about how he was getting stuck on geometry with the free locomotion. That happened to me a number of times. I had this one really weird problem with the free locomotion, where, with snap turning, I could only snap turn to the right. I could not snap turn to the left. And Paradise Decay actually said it was the same for him. He could only snap turn to the right. And that's just really odd why that would happen. The biggest downer of Witching Tower VR, though, in my opinion, is the combat. I just don't think the combat is good, especially the bow. Like, I got the bow, and the bow just doesn't, the bow in Carnage Chronicles, Vanishing Realms, and In Death and Longbow. We know how to do bow in VR, right? Bow mechanics. And this one it feels very mediocre, very lackluster, not very good bow mechanics. And the sword is kind of just hackathon. All I've dealt with so far, though, really are these like killer dogs that come at you, the bats, and then these skeleton guys. The graphics can be very good at times. It's hard to pin this game down. It's got issues. It's got some jank, but it has promise too.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. If the developer can spend time with it, does anybody know? Is it in early access?
I was just going to ask you the same thing, actually.
Okay,
yeah, because I assume it is.
But yeah, it's one of those things. If the developer takes time and fleshes this out over the next, say, 6 months or whatever, it could for me, it could fall in the recommend camp. Right now, it's kind of sitting right outside the recommend line, before we're going fully in, just based on there's some issues. I agree. Anthony, you probably said it better, that it's hard to pin this game down. There's lots to like and there's lots to dislike. Sebastian.
Just very quickly, sorry, before we go on to Sebastian, it doesn't look like it actually is early access. I assumed it was, but it doesn't look like it is from the Steam page.
Oh, interesting. Well, in that case, it would be very hard to recommend as a sort of a finished game, because your immersion's going to be sort of broken by some of these elements at a pretty consistent clip. At least that's my experience. And I played it very late. I know that there was a series of patches this week, and I played it 2 times yesterday. So, here I played it on Saturday, and I don't think there's any more patches been since I played it. Moving on, I had one more game on the list, but I'm going to hold that over to next week. I kind of wanted to get to it before Halloween, but Home Sweet Home, we got a key for that, but I don't think anybody else has had a chance to play it. So we'll kind of have a post Halloween discussion on a horror game. Does anybody have anything else they want to get into before we start wrapping up the show?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would really love to know. I would like to speak a bit more about the Pimax. I would like to know what you guys think about the pricing. I would like to know what you guys think about the Pimax's chance in the industry. I would just like to know about your thoughts. Well, I've been dealing with it for so long with 3D Viver and Voodoo, but I don't really know what you guys really think about the pricing, the chance to make it happen, their professionalism to pull it off. And I would simply like to hear a bit more about your thoughts. I mean, that's basically it.
It's interesting because, like bringing you on here as a guest, I've thought about, how we could ask you questions. I never really thought that they may come the other way. So I'd say, like, I don't think it depends on the scope of what you consider their chances are. Like, in the scope of competing against Facebook and HTC and Sony, I'd say those chances are very low. Like, that's going to be a mountain that it would be unreasonable, in my opinion, to even consider that they should be able to overcome. But competing in the space of sort of capturing the hearts of us crazy lunatic enthusiasts, I'd say the chances are very high, because every single person that has talked about having experience with the Pimax headset has said it's like no other headset that we can get our grubby mitts on. Now, getting your grubby mitts on it is questionable, because there's a lot of us that can't yet. But I'm assuming at some point it's going to be readily available, like their 4K headset is. Within reason, I can't go to Best Buy or a brick and mortar store and buy it, but I'm assuming at some point it'll get to a point where those that want to pick up a Pimax will go to the website, will order it, and get it in their homes within a week or so.
Right.
When it gets to that point, I think it can be successful for, like I said, us lunatics that just want the best enthusiast experience. Their professionalism gives me some pause. Now, I am respective, despite what a lot of the world thinks of Americans and people in the U.S. A lot of us are actually respective of other cultures. I personally am in a interracial marriage, and I can accept what some people may think is a lack of professionalism, and I can accept that some of it is due to the Chinese culture and sort of the way that they think about things. When you live and grow up in a certain part of the world, you just think differently. And I think a lot of what we're seeing from a company like Pimax as a result of those cultural differences, mixed with probably some elements of them being a young company and having limited funds. They don't have Facebook money,
Yeah.
I'm excited for the product personally. The price, I think, is fair. We talked about it last week a little bit here on the show when the leak announced. And everyone said, the $799 was what I thought at the time for the 5K plus. I said that price was fair, while expensive. I feel like $800 for a enthusiast level headset isn't too much. You know, like $800 is expensive, but it's doable in a world where people have $1,300 graphic cards and $200 keyboards. $800
iPhones.
Yeah, $800 for a good quality headset that's doing things that no other headset can is a reasonable price. You know, and I compared it to the Vive Pro, which I don't think at $800 is doing enough compared to the $500 Vive package that you can get. So, it's where I stand. You know, maybe I'm a little bit biased at this point because I pre-ordered one and I'm looking forward to getting it. But I have high hopes, and the only lagging question I have is I'm concerned that if I get it and something's broken or, you know, down the line, which by the way, the day I ordered these two headsets, my Rift got jealous and decided to develop the right ear audio issue.
Oh, no.
So it's like it knew, like, you know, so, you know, how does support work? You know, I am worried a little bit of what Pimax's support structure will look like because they really haven't talked about it in any way. And I know they're using 100% of their capacity to get the Kickstarters fulfilled. So along the way, the Kickstarters have issues and then the early buyers have issues. You know, how is Pimax going to juggle that? So those are the concern that I have, but,
right, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's a risk I'm willing to take to no longer stand on the outside hearing everybody talk about how awesome the experience is.
Makes sense. And how about Anthony and Gary? I'm now the host of the show. I'm taking over. MRTV is taking over.
You want to go first, Gary?
Yeah, not a lot to add actually. I think I pretty much agree with everything that Steve said there. The only thing I'll add is I think Pimax could either make or break it with this product, and that's the big thing to say, because if they do ship this product out and everybody is satisfied with it, which I hope they are, then it could take them to the next tier and they can continue to produce products that will push the boundaries of PC-based VR, which I'm obviously, you know, as an enthusiast, I'm very excited by that thought. So I hope they do well with this product and they continue to push it. Other than that, I sort of have some similar, very small reservations with Pimax, but only because they've not got too much of a proven track record. They have released the previous products that they have released, and by all accounts, they've done very well with them. So there's probably not too much to be concerned about. But that's really all I've got to say. I hope they continue down this path, and I hope they continue to push the boundaries of PC-based VR, because I'm excited to try it.
Right.
Yeah. So my take on it, like from a pricing standpoint, at first I thought the price was like a little bit too high because it's headset only, you know, and you still need controllers and base stations and all of that if you don't happen to already be a Vive owner. But like based on what Sebastian was saying, just like you can't go back to the other headsets. If that's really true, then no, it is pretty fair price. In fact, it might be a slight bargain in certain ways. I do wish they had an all-in-one package. I really wish they did. And the sooner they can get to have an all-in-one package, the better. And the other thing I'll say too, in terms of like, I love the fact, well, Pimax is in a beautiful situation. Think about it. There's nothing else out there. What else is there? There's no CV2 on the horizon. The Vive 1.5 isn't thrilling anybody. But I mean, well, not on the immediate horizon, right? So there's nothing immediately coming there. So at Pimax, they have the stage to themselves, really. I mean, we got the Odyssey Plus kind of squeaking in there a little bit. But Pimax can really disrupt this market, because if they capture the hearts and minds of all the subreddits, you know, all the hardcore enthusiasts out there, if they really capture our hearts and minds, this is going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on Oculus and HTC and anybody else to solve this Pimax problem, you know, this comparison with Pimax. And then eventually, like if eventually we actually have Knuckles and official base stations, and eventually if Pimax themselves can license the ability to manufacture the 2.0 base stations and the exact Knuckles, not their version of Knuckles, but the exact Knuckles, but just manufactured by Pimax. And if they can have an all-in-one box for like $12.99 or something, $11.99, even though it's expensive, that's going to really throw a monkey wrench into this entire industry in certain ways. And I'm excited for that. That is exciting to me. So I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Yeah, I totally agree with everything that Anthony said here. I think right now, they have the huge chance to capture all of our hearts and minds, right? Us VR enthusiasts who want to have the Rift 2, but who are not going to get it probably in the next few years. So I think they really need to take this chance now and deliver as many headsets as possible, as soon as possible. And what you said, Anthony, about the package where everything is inside, I totally agree with you. It would be great if they can come up with it as soon as possible. I think it's still going to take a while, though. It seems like they're going to come up with their own controllers next year only. But on their website, you can actually pre-order the base stations together with those controllers for $300, as it seems. And then you have this $300 price together with this $699 price of the 5K Plus, which brings it to $999 for the whole package, which is an amazing price, I think, for a headset, which really is a huge leap over all the headsets that we have right now. But, and now is the big but here. The big problem that I see is that actually Pimax is really a small startup company. And at times, I do feel they're completely overwhelmed with that big chance that they have. It's like a small company, right? I don't know how many people, probably 60, 70 people are working there, and they suddenly have the chance to capture this whole enthusiast VR industry, which is fantastic. And they have all this demand that I hope they can fulfill and they can make all of us happy. But I have the unfortunate feeling there's going to be lots of heartbreak. There's been lots of heartbreak for the Kickstarter backers who've been waiting now for 1 year. And I have the feeling there's even going to be more heartbreak for all the people who pre-order now, because I'm not sure if they will be as patient as the Kickstarter backers. Because for Kickstarter, you just support them, right? You're not buying something, right? That's how Kickstarter works. You support that, you hope that at one point they're going to deliver it, and that's why you already go there with this attitude, okay, hopefully it's going to come and I'll be happy if I get it. But all the people who pre-order now, right? Like Steve, who put their money inside, well, you pre-order, it's a different thing. And I'm not sure if the people who pre-order the device will be as patient with waiting as the Kickstarter backers are. And I feel there's going to be lots of pressure. The pressure is going to mount. The pressure is actually very high right now already from the Kickstarter backers. And there's going to be even more pressure on Kickstarter to deliver. And I hope that they can grow up as a company as soon as possible, because they need to grow up. They are a small company. They are a small startup company. They work in ways that are unbelievable if you compare that to professional companies like Oculus or HTC. So there is a lot of growing up to do. So lots of decisions, they are not really well thought through, I would say. So, for example, why would they introduce now the OLED version? In my humble opinion, I think it confuses people. It confuses people. So probably lots of people were like totally convinced, okay, I'm getting the 5K Plus. It seems to be the best model. I want to pre-order that on day one. Then what happens? Oh, we have a 5K Business Edition model that is like a few $100s more expensive, and now it has OLED. But nobody has ever tested it. I don't have a review out. So these people who want to pre-order on day one, probably they're waiting now. And probably Pimax has lost lots of money because people could not pre-order in the very first day. People are confused about suddenly there being an OLED version. And I simply think that this company has to grow up much faster than they do now. They have to get much more professional on so many levels, on their marketing, on their communication, which is completely confusing. If you go on the pre-order website now, you can find something that is like, it's like a $1 price difference that you can buy. What is that?
Well, I assume someone had mentioned that was for the Kickstarters that were needed to pay more for certain items, like I don't know, like if you wanted to pay more for the hand tracking thing or something.
Okay, but you cannot just throw it out and expect people to know what it is.
For sure, yeah.
You know, it's like their whole communication is really a disaster. Let me make it so clear. And you know, I was part of the 3-month M1 tester group, right? I couldn't speak about anything that happened inside, but the lack of communication, even to these few internal testers, it's unbelievable. They simply gave us the software to test without any kind of change log. We didn't know what the new versions are doing. We had to find out everything by ourselves. And you know, it's still happening right now. So the first people got their headsets, and there's some new versions, and the change log goes like, box fixed. Yeah, all right, awesome, good to know. And then it seems like there's no quality assurance at all at Pimax, not at all. It seems like they're simply programming the stuff, like rolling it out, and they don't follow standard procedure. I mean, Steve, you're an engineer just like me, right? We're both electrical engineers, and if you come up with a new version, right, of something, you know, we have code reviews, right? You have to sit with your superior. You have to, every single line of code, you have to tell them, hey, why did you change that variable? And that's for a reason, right? Because you don't want to fuck up the next version. And for Pimax, they are simply programming it, and it feels like they don't even check one time before they come out with a new version. Because, well, all these new versions, they always introduce so many new problems. It is unbelievable, really.
This is really interesting to hear, actually because,
you're making Steve feel real good right now.
This is a side.
Sorry, Steve.
No, I know I'm taking a little bit of a risk. I'm fine with that.
I will say, like, the other side of that is that they're actually being pretty shrewd in terms of how they're marketing this in some ways, and maybe it's not them being shrewd, it's more just a matter of convenience in terms of them giving early review units to you and Sweeviver and Voodoo, because I think anybody that is in the VR community will see those videos and really get actually quite excited by them.
I'm still excited about the device itself,
yes,
but I'm not excited about the professionalism of that company. So these are two things, really. The device is really incredible, and I want everyone to get it. But I don't see that happening if the company doesn't grow up and become much more professional as soon as possible.
Do you think that maybe there's, you know, a lot of small companies, you know, you use the phrase startup, they're hoping to get acquired. This is, especially in the tech sector, it's very much an acquisition based sort of mentality. So I wonder if Pimax is hoping, and again, I'll kind of duck to the cultural issues or differences to an extent. I don't know if it's quite the same in China, but I wonder if they're just kind of hoping that an HTC or somebody's going to swoop down, scoop them up, you know, infuse all that capital into them so that they can hire, you know, a web developer that can actually make a web page, you know, like those sorts of things. And you know, in either case, like I think there's maybe a chance of that. I see that, and you know, you used the point, Sebastian, about, you know, updating code. The upside, and I'm just playing devil's advocate for the sake of discussion. I'm not you know, not necessarily taking all this to heart, but the upside is that they can make a change. You know, I know at some companies, if like Sony, for example, if there's an issue with version 1 of the code, and they know what the issue is, and they got to go through all these QA checks and all this stuff, and it's longer. 5 weeks to get a fix out or something. Exactly. So there's pros and cons to it in every way. Yeah, and that's the advantage they have.
So that's right. They can much faster iterate on things, right? Even if they introduce new problems, then they're gonna fix them. Yeah. But anyways, for your question, if they're probably looking at just trying to be acquired, I don't think so. And the reason is, I truly believe that they don't really think at all about any kind of business things. It's crazy. It sounds unbelievable to us, right? But these guys, I got to know them. They are super nice people. I spoke with the founder. I spoke with the main team there, and they are all VR enthusiasts like us. They are really, really just the same as us, but they don't have any kind of business ideas at all. So what they want to do, they truly, truly want to deliver the most awesome VR headset possible. That is on their mind. and all the other things that are happening around it, like, okay, the pricing, how to make a website, that is something that they are learning on the way. It's really like they're jumping off the cliff, and down the way they're trying to assemble the airplane. It is truly, truly like that. And I truly hope that they can assemble that airplane soon enough before they hit rock bottom, and then it's too late. But they are really very sympathetic guys, just like us, VR enthusiasts, and they want to deliver the most awesome headset. That's also why suddenly there is a 5K OLED version. It is not because they have made some great plans to deliver it. It's just like, oh, they had it, and they thought, hey, some people will like it, and some people will think it's better, and that's why they threw it out. From a business standpoint, it doesn't make any sense.
I almost wonder if some of it is like when you're making a product like this, like supply chain and being able to source all the components are an issue. Like you can, if you need component or widget A, and there's only so many widget A's on the market, but then widget B shows up and it can sort of do the job. It almost seems like, they come across a good deal on some OLED screens. And they're like, well, what if we just
it's
make...
just like this? Yeah, now we got some OLED screens, we could get them, and let's put them in. Okay, 5K OLED version. It's really, really like that. And it is on one part, it's very sympathetic, right? Because it's like nice. You have a company that really wants to deliver the best goods, no matter even though it might not make sense from a business standpoint. And I told them, hey guys, do not confuse people now with that OLED version. I told them, do not sell that now. Why don't you just sell the 8K and 5K Plus right now? And then you know what? In half a year, you can bring out that OLED version and you're going to have double sales. Just like Apple, right? They don't put all the technology that they have right now into the iPhone because they want to sell the next thing next year as well, right? And we all buying it. But that's probably my business standpoint, and that would be good on a business standpoint. But for them, they don't care. They just want to throw out the best thing that they have right now. And on one part, that is kind of sympathetic.
For sure. Well, we look forward to. I don't know. Let me ask: are they going to send you a business edition to review?
I asked. I asked for it.
They can send it to me instead. Like that's still out there. But
did you ask for one for me as well?
Well, I really hope that I can get it. I would love to review it for all of us VR enthusiasts. So hopefully it's going to happen. But I think they're going to do it.
Yep. I look forward to kind of hearing where the business edition stacks up.
Right.
And either way, I think we've crossed our 2-hour mark. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Sebastian, it was a pleasure having you. I think we should look to do it again. I think you bring insight and experience that us unlucky devils haven't had a chance to have. So it's been a pleasure. A little bit of housekeeping here. Guys, we always say like the channel, subscribe, do all that. Like, that stuff's important. And, to kind of give an example, like, the number of subscribers that we have is sort of how we convince, the industry to, not necessarily give us free stuff, but give us sort of the inside scoop so that we can talk about it here on the podcast. We do a good job, I think, of our views. People are watching. We know a lot of you guys are watching, and I know all of you haven't hit the subscribe button. Unfortunately, when we reach out to, say, a company like Cybershoes or Pimax even, they just want to look at that subscriber count without realizing what the views and what the content is. See, his subscriber count is higher. So anyways, I guess what I'm saying is, like a panhandler, we're sitting here, we're begging for subs. That actually helps us a lot, because when people check us out and they say, oh, they have so many subs, let's send them some widget so that they can discuss on the show, which really just helps us, deliver that information to all of you watchers. In most cases, we don't keep the stuff for free anyway, outside of, game keys here and there. So, that's our run of the mill, asking for subs and iTunes likes and all that. So
that makes sense. And all the MRTV subscribers who are watching this show right now, please subscribe to this channel. VR Roundtable is truly, absolutely an awesome show. And I found myself, I watch it every time because I think this is the best VR podcast on the interwebs.
I'll second that. Thank you. Hopefully we could just get half of your subs come over. That would be so worth the time. So anyways, thanks to all the watchers, everybody on the audio podcast, checking it out via iTunes or Google Play. We appreciate you being here. This has been episode 101, and we'll be back next week with episode 102. I'll be able to talk about the Odyssey Plus experience that I have, and we'll see you next time. Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.